You see, we have two types of flight.
Mm.
Visual flight rules. That means you're flying from ground zero to about 10,000 feet. And after 10,000 feet, you are doing instrument flying rules. And helicopters don't often do instrument flight rules above 10,000 feet. They are much lower. So they do the visual flight rules, which means that the pilot must be in constant touch or view of the ground or the tallest object, And now when you want to fly, you fly your flight plan. After setting your met conditions, you fly your flight plan to the control tower, who will now give authorization to take off. And they will also give you the weather en route. And this was not a very long route for Accra to Asaase. So they took off and they were flying on the assigned height in a good weather until about 6 minutes to Asaase when they ran into the downdraft. And because you're not flying too high, maybe about 1,007, 2,000 above the highest object, the downdraft, rather than push them, and as they tried to get through it, they must have encountered problems and the plane crashed. So it's a purely a meteorological situation we call the crash. At the beginning, we were wondering, and I said we should find out why did it lose height. But now it's been given that is of course by the downdraft. It forced it. It lost its height to come and crash.
That's interesting. And again, we're seeking clarification for what the team said. They said the loss of altitude without change in power or pitch altitude is consistent with downdraft associated with changing environmental conditions over high terrain. A lot of people thought that this was too much English and technicalities. Can you explain this to us in a layman term?
Well, these are purely aviation language. When he said he was trying to change power and climb, you have to climb with power.
Right.
And you change your pitch for the plane to go up. Are you with me?
I am.
You cannot just be flying and suddenly the plane goes, so you have to change power pitch. Pitch means that it started going up and coming down. And they were trying to contract by going higher. Are you with me?
Yes.
And in that phase, this thing happened for them to come down. And the aircraft had been exonerated that it was perfect and airworthy. The captains were even over qualified. So if you eliminate these things from the crash, the aircraft and the pilot, then the main problem was the weather.
In the month of August, when this tragic incident happened, the weather was clear. There was an overcast sky, and you don't need to be in Meteo to know that indeed there was an overcast. But how predictable are downdrafts in the kind of weather Ghana typically experiences in August?
The downdraft is a weather condition.
Right.
It can start at any time. It's like you sitting in your studio and talking to me, and suddenly there's thunderstorm.
But this
right?
is
generated. It's not generated by the airplane. It's weather phenomenon. And sometimes you can run into weather, and then if you don't take care, then these things can happen. I mean, the pilot would not have taken off if he didn't have clearance, a good weather from Accra to Asaase, because he doesn't want to go and die. And they wouldn't even permit him to start because the weather en route was not good. And earlier, they had to delay the flight for about an hour for the weather to clear before they took off. But unfortunately, a new weather developed 6 minutes to destination. And they have no control over the weather.
Does that mean that if a new weather develops in the course of traveling, the pilots can make that judgment of having maybe an emergency landing? Is that applicable? But
you see, this thing happened in a forested area. There was no space for them to land. If there were to be a school park or something, maybe they could have. But if there was no place for them to land, and the aircraft is being pushed down, is losing power, certainly he's going to hit tree or something. He can't land on top of trees. These have been some, one fly over this heavy forested areas. People forget that there are villages within the forest. But looking for space to put the aircraft down was a problem.
Right.
I mean, a pilot doesn't want to die. I hope you get me.
Right. I also want to get some explanation and clarity along the routes the pilot was traveling. Is it such in a way that there are no places for emergency landing? At least from Accra to Obuasi, no place for emergency landing?
Well, on a route which is selected from Accra to Obuasi, if you got into any emergency, it would be the best thing to find somewhere to land. But I'm saying that it happened on top of forest. And it doesn't give you time that 1 hour, start looking for a place. The plane is coming down. You can't hold the plane in static position in the air.
Right.
It's rather an unfortunate situation which happened.
Right. If you just join us, you're listening to the Asaase Breakfast Show, and we're unpacking the reports that was made public by the investigative committee of the August 6th tragedy. And thankfully, we've been joined by Wing Commander Patrick Nelson Sogbodjor. He started the conversation with us, and we're continuing from where we left off the last time. Mr. Sogbodjor, the report says that the cockpit voice recorder was retrieved and analyzed. Now, how much can investigators truly determine from this CVR alone without access to the flight data recorder?
Could you repeat that question again?
The report says that the cockpit voice recorder was retrieved and analyzed. I want to know how much can the investigators truly determine?
A cockpit recorder will only record the voices of the pilots in the air. That's what the job is done. So if the two of them were flying and they were fixing that emergency, they must have been talking about what was going on. And that's what you can get from a cockpit recorder, nothing else.
Were there also indications that maybe the pilots may have misjudged the weather or flown into unsafe conditions?
I mean, if you look at the distance between Accra to Obuasi and it's flown all the way 6 minutes, I don't think it misjudged. And it's only one. There are two pilots on board. And both of them could not maybe have lost it. You understand me?
Right.
There were two overqualified pilots in the cockpit. So one alone cannot misjudge and fly the airplane into a mountain or a tree. And as I said earlier, this down draft or upper draft happens all the time. It's unfortunate the plane was caught in it. Okay?
Were you surprised that there was no attribution to human failings in this particular incident?
Certainly, there was no human failure. Humans don't control the weather. You are trained to fly through weather all type sometimes, but it gets to a point sometimes, like they said, they were trying to change altitude, go up, so that they can have a better view of the ground. But unfortunately, in the face of that one, they lost the power. It's like if you're climbing a Buru Hill, okay, and you are going up and suddenly there's something, a light call or something, you try to accelerate, the car is not moving. You are bound to come on down. Isn't it?
Right.
Because the plane cannot be held up in the air. It depends on the power. And a storm is pushing you down. You are fighting through it. Okay? And the airplane is not going. The airplane can be static within it. It's bound to fall.
Now, the board also makes several recommendations, but do such recommendations usually lead to real change, or they are just symbolic, as we've seen in the past?
The lie is not too clear on this one, too.
I want us to talk about the recommendations that was made by the committee. I want to find out from you. You have been in the aviation space for some time. Do these recommendations lead to real change, or they are just symbolic?
I think if you study the report, the changes which he recommended could not have affected the craft. They are things to enhance the flying, but they couldn't have prevented. There are even airplanes, even better equipped, who can go down in weather. You know, he's talking about a couple of things. And this situation, in his own report, he said he couldn't have prevented if you go back to the report.
Right. Again, the one who presented the report, and I'm referring to Mr. Sogbodjor, who said that if there were safety measures in the plane, in fact, he said that if there were modernized safety measures in this Z9, for instance, the accident could have been averted. Where do you stand on that?
I am saying the same report. He said even when they haven't. These helicopters have been flying all the time. They've been zigzagging this country left, east, west, south without a problem. But I'm saying that what he recommended is a modern equipment which can be installed to enhance. But before that, as I said, the plane had been flying. This plane was based in Takoradi and came from Takoradi to Accra and then to Boise. Accidents happen. Even the best configured aircraft, they happen. You know? So that's the answer to it. It doesn't mean that it could have averted it. He said it could not have averted the situation. The downdraft has no relationship with instruments you have in the aircraft. It could help. But these are emergencies which you can go into, which you can get out or you can't get out of.
Now, let's move away from the downdrafts, which related to the weather conditions said to be the cause for the accident. One other recommendation that was made by the committee is that we need a modernized fleet for the Ghana Armed Forces.
Well, to a certain extent, yes. If you buy new planes for the Air Force, you'll be happy. But airplanes are not judged by age. They are judged by their flying hours and simulated checks. Are you with me? Some of the commercial flights you fly on, sometimes the body of the line is about 30, 40 years old. You know, but they do checks on the flying hours, and which are mandatory. Check 10 hours, 20, 30, 40. When you get to the maximum, then you have to go to the manufacturer, like the presidential jet is in the south, in France. So that's the maximum, and the plane should be stripped down and make sure it's worthy. And be in a mind that you can never stop an airplane in the air and call anybody to come and fix anything for you. And no pilot too will take a default plane up. So it should be cleared. Are you with me?
Right. Also, given that the military flights, how much oversight? I mean, you've been talking about the oversight in terms of maintenance, standards, and pilot training, and for instance, the operational risk assessment. How much of it needs to be done for military helicopters, for instance?
You know, when they are manufacturing aeroplanes, they don't manufacture, apart from fighter jets, which have flew on many years, they don't manufacture planes for the Air Force or for the film. They are the same type, just like buying a Toyota and Mercedes-Benz. If you want extra gadgets into it, they will install and you pay for it. Now, the Ghana Airport knows its capabilities and what the planes are meant to be done. And if what they have, and they've been flying from 1959, but this Z9 is about 10 years old, which in our eyes is fairly new. It hasn't gone close to its maximum hours where they have to check. And of course, before the plane was even pushed out from the hangar to fly, the technicians have cleared it. And then the pilots cleared it. And I'm saying they've been flying. So if they want to buy new airplanes, it depends on the government. The old ones you have been flying, they are still flying. It doesn't mean they're unflyable.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.